What's up, airplane collectors? Welcome to a model airplane review. I'm your host, Ray. Today I'll be reviewing the 1:400 scale Delta Airlines Airbus A350-1000 made by NG Model. Item number 57010, released in January of 2025. In this video, I'll do a review of the model, after which I will list off its pros and cons. At the end, I will decide whether or not I recommend this model to other collectors. The box is made from cardstock. The protective packaging on the inside is made from plastic. This box measures 18.5 centimeters long, 18.5 centimeters tall, and 5.5 centimeters wide. I'll show you around the box now. This is the front. Here's the bottom. Right side, top, left side, and the back side. Included in the box is the model as shown here, fully assembled, painted, and ready to display. Also included is an NG Model Collector Rewards Program card and a warning card. This warning card basically says to handle the model with care, otherwise you risk hurting yourself. In practice, the small details that are on the fuselage really don't pose a threat to you. It's more of a warning to handle the model correctly so you don't damage the details. But yeah, handling this model really isn't a safety hazard unless you seriously mistreat it. Let's do a quick 360. The fuselage length for this model is 18.3 centimeters, the wingspan is 16.5 centimeters, and the height is 4.5 centimeters. These dimensions are accurate to 1:400 scale. This model is made out of die-cast metal. The wheels on the landing gear are made out of rubber. This model is technically a fantasy model since Delta Airlines does not have any Airbus A350-1000s in their fleet as of the time of recording. However, they do have this aircraft on order and it is expected to enter the fleet sometime in the future. Let's take a look at the fuselage first. The nose profile on this model looks pretty good. I don't think it's 100% accurate. Maybe the radome here is a little bit too pointy, but overall it captures the shape pretty well, so I won't complain about it. There's lots of printed detail up here as well, small placards, and even from what it looks like pitot tubes, but a lot of detail on the fuselage here. This looks pretty good. And as we move down the fuselage, we can see the Delta title there. That looks nice. Some windows, the exits, those all look pretty good. Here's the midsection. All of the remaining shapes on the fuselage look pretty good as well. And here you can see the blank registration since this is technically a fictional aircraft as of the time of recording. Here's the vertical stabilizer. This looks good. The shape looks accurate. There's some recessed panel line detail for the rudder. This looks good. Paint colors and application looks pretty good as well. No complaints. Here is the right side of the aircraft. It's largely the same as the left side, so I won't provide as much commentary, but everything I've said about the left side of the aircraft is also applicable to the right side. The wings on this model are also very nicely detailed. They feature painted detail. We see some silver paint on the leading edge slats right here. There is recessed panel line detail, although it's very hard to see. Only in the light reflection can you see it. And you can also see some residue, some oil that they like to put on these models once they're fresh out of the factory. But yeah, this looks pretty good as well. I don't see any paints filling it, but it is very hard to see some of this recessed control surface detail. There's also some printed detail on the wing, not too much, there doesn't need to be too much, and it sounds like there's a helicopter outside. Sorry about that. But yeah, this looks pretty good as well. And the undersides of the wings are empty pretty much. There's no printed detail down here because there doesn't necessarily need to be, but there's still control surface detail and some painted detail down here as well. That looks pretty good too. Now, for the wingtips, these look alright. I don't see anything necessarily wrong with them. Yeah, I'll try. I'm just trying to figure out the best angle. There you go. You guys can see the small Delta title there. That looks pretty good. The shape and size of these looks pretty accurate as well, based on what I've seen. Here's the inside of the right one. Yep, no complaints. There we go. This is the view I wanted to show you, just to show you the angle at which the wingtips are at. This looks good. The horizontal stabilizers are also pretty bare. There doesn't need to be too much detail here, but even then, they look pretty good. There's some recessed control surface detail. I do see that the silver dot here for the light, for the logo light here, is kind of going onto the recessed panel line, but it's not too much. The attachment to the aircraft seems pretty firm. The APU also looks pretty good. If the camera would focus, that'd be great. There we go. That's what I wanted to show you. But yeah, the APU looks pretty good. And then the underside of these looks pretty solid as well. Moving on to the engines on this model are also very good. The shape of the nacelle looks good. The exhaust nozzle is nice, painted a dark metallic silver there. The engine pylons look good. The attachment with the aircraft seems alright. There is maybe a bit of a gap there, but nothing worthy of writing home about in my opinion. And then, of course, here's the fan detail. The fan detail looks really good. The fans do not spin. They don't really need to, but that looks good. I do see something hanging off of the side of this one here. Okay, whatever it was, I wiped it off, so I guess it was a piece of trash. The strakes here look good. They're very sharp too, so that's very nice. There is some printed detail on the bottoms of the nacelles here, or actually a lot of printed detail. All of this looks pretty good, and for completion's sake, I'll show you the red engine here. Looks pretty nice. As mentioned earlier, this model features three-dimensional details on the fuselage, those being antennas and a singular sat dome. So up here we have this antenna right here. This is one of the larger ones actually, and these things are absolutely tiny. And you can see I can poke my finger on it and it really won't hurt me. So yeah, these things don't really pose a threat to anyone. Just be very careful when handling the model because it's very easy to break these parts. So up here, all of the antennas look pretty good. There's the sat dome. It's on the fuselage very nicely. There's not a huge gap between the dome and the fuselage. And then here there's this comically small antenna that looks pretty good as well. Here's a view from the front of the aircraft. What I want to talk about here is the sat dome. It's ever so slightly off to the left side of the aircraft. I don't think that's accurate, but it's not off by a huge amount. The bottom of the aircraft is a bit of a different story. Here at the bottom front section of the fuselage, we have this antenna right here. This one actually arrived broken because what happened was that it pierced some of the clear sheeting that protects the model, and the clear sheeting, I guess, ripped it away from the fuselage and it kind of messed up the paint. And I was able to put it back into place. I wasn't able to glue it because of just how small the attachment was, and even after placing it, I couldn't get it to fit in exactly the way I wanted to. Here you can see with my pointer, it is still a bit loose, but it's not to the point where it'll fall out of the aircraft, so I just don't want to mess with it anymore. So that was the one part of this model that came broken. Everything else came fully assembled. Towards the rear of the aircraft, we have another one of these smaller antennas on the bottom of the fuselage. This one looks good. Here's the bottom of the aircraft. Here we can see the signature Delta title on the bottom of the fuselage. Here there's the display stand hole. It kind of cuts off the E there. What I do want to point out is that there's a lot of small placards and just small printed details on the bottom of the fuselage, and you have to look really close to see them. Some of them are really hard to see, but all of the detail that needs to be present is present, and it looks pretty good. Here's what the main landing gear look like, the triple bogies. These look pretty good. The struts seem to be all right. Oh boy, what happened there? All right, I'm seeing a lot of gap filling in the struts on the right main gear here. So, yeah, that's the right side. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but that's kind of unusual. The wheels are made out of rubber and they all roll, but the bogies themselves do not pivot. Here's what the gear doors look like. These look pretty good as well. I don't see any issues with the one on the left side or the right side here. Here's the nose gear. The nose gear on this model looks really good. The wheels roll just like the main gears, and the strut for the nose gear looks very nicely detailed, as you can see here. Time for a staring contest. Engine clearance looks good. Cockpit window printing is symmetrical. Gear balance looks good. Wing flex looks good. Vertical stabilizer seems to be centerlined and perfectly straight up. This is pretty good. Very nice to see. Excellent assembly quality from NG there. That concludes my review. Now let's go over the pros and cons. What does this model do well? It's very nicely detailed. The tooling for it has the shapes done very nicely. The nose shape is good, and overall the proportions of the plane are accurate to the real A350-1000. In terms of the paint application was good all around. The colors were accurate, and I really can't complain about that. Printed detail was also extensive and consistent throughout the entire model. In terms of cons, we did see that one of the antennas on this model was broken. Quality control from NG tends to fluctuate. I haven't seen too many issues with this model in particular, but just be wary of the quality control. Some of them are less affected by quality control issues than others. So with that being said, despite the potentially spotty quality control, I definitely recommend this model. It's pretty good. Even though it's fictional, it will become reality in 2026 based on what I've read, And yeah, I think it's a solid model. If you want to go for it, I say go for it. Usually, quality control is somewhat. Oh, looks like my dog's home. Anyway, yeah, quality control is usually consistent, and yeah, you shouldn't get anything terrible. That's what I'm trying to get across. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. As always, if you have questions, comments, or feedback, be sure to leave a comment down below. If you're new to the channel, feel free to check out my other model reviews and comparisons. And if you want to show the channel some support, go ahead, like this video, and subscribe so you never miss another upload. Happy building, happy collecting. Please take good care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.